worked when I was young. I worked in the berry fields, picking blueberries, really got it down. I was making $12 an hour. You were paid by the pound. I was really good at it. And I didn't cheat like some of my friends. They would just run up and down the aisles and you just grab the cluster and you just kind of cup it. And you just, it looks bad if people are watching, but you do this and the berries just fall down. And they fall in the bucket.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Abundant Journey podcast. I am your host, Nick James, along with partner in crime, Nick Aufenkamp. We got a special guest lined up today. Nick, how are you? You excited about this one?
Yes, I am thrilled about this one. I'll let you introduce our guest, but I will say, just hands down, by far, best looking hair of any guest we've ever had on the show. So if for nothing else, I'm thrilled for people to engage for that reason alone.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Well, we have Tyler Young hanging out with us today. Longtime entrepreneur. He is getting after it, but I am not going to steal his thunder. Tyler, I'm going to bring you in. We want to know a little bit about what you're doing today, where you live, what life looks like. You got connected with me from a past acquaintance and a past coworker of mine. We'll probably bring some of his stories into the episode here. But Tyler, thanks for hanging out with us, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. I'm glad to be a part of this. The mutual friend is someone I very clearly care for. And he said you two were people to talk to. And therefore, here I am. And I'll just dive in. What I do today, where I am, born and raised in Boring, Oregon. I always like saying that. And then everyone laughs and tells me it's not boring. It's like, no, it's a city. It's a city in Boring. It's a city in Oregon. It's an actual city. It was a great line when I was a teenager or a young adult, for talking with strangers.
Yep.
Or ladies.
Yeah. The city is boring, but I'm not, I swear. All right.
Yeah. It was a good line. It was a good line.
Yeah.
And now I live in Georgia. I live in Milton, Alpharetta, Georgia. Never thought I would move to Georgia, but life led me here. Business brought me here. My kids are here now with me, and so is their mother. And that's where I am today. But this journey all started a long time ago. But let's just say where it ended so far. Today, I have over 100 employees. We have over 10,000 customers. I have a development team. We're adding 24 more people to that development team this year. We've just achieved milestones that I never thought I would. I'm considered a fintech company, and I agree with it. We have a technology point of sale for hospitality and restaurants. We also provide, through our Bold Integrated Payments, a payments platform for software vendors and resellers of software to monetize payment processing. Nick, you're probably familiar with that at US Bank.
Yep.
So we have some good software that helps out ISVs and VARs. And at the same time, some of those VARs, which is considered a value-added reseller, someone who just sells someone else's software. And we had a lot of VARs selling hospitality point of sales who wanted something better. So we decided to acquire a company called Ordix and launch it as Tonic point of sale. And we did that in the last year. I've actually completed 6 M&As since 2017.
Wow.
And believe it or not, I got one that's going to be wrapping up here in the next. I actually decided to close it on my birthday because it happens to be about the time frame that works.
What a great present.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. No, growing up, my birthday was tax day. And I would laugh about it and tell everybody, oh, my birthday's tax day. And no kid knew. And eventually I gave up and started telling everybody April 15th. My birthday is April 15th. And as I got older, everyone said, oh, tax day. I'm like, oh, now you.
Yeah, now people care. You were just early, man. You were just early, which, that's one of the traits often in a fantastic entrepreneur, early to things. I got a million questions about Tonic and just this whole world of fintech. Now, it's interesting because I don't usually put fintech startup in Alpharetta, Georgia together. Usually I think of, somebody that's in Silicon Valley or in Austin, Texas. So what's that been like being in Georgia? Do you have a pretty good, is there more of a startup community there than I'm aware of? Or what's the opportunity that you saw in Georgia?
When you put it that way, I just have to add, from Boring, Oregon to Alpharetta, Georgia, startup fintech company. Right now, I can see how that header would be very confusing to most people.
Hey, it makes for an awesome start to a story. That's for sure.
It does. Yeah. Fortunately for me, we have acquired. My business started in Oregon and it was feet on the street, bootstrap. You got to be able to make money. And with money, then you get options and you can take risks that you're comfortable with. And a lot of entrepreneurs are the spirited entrepreneurs who never actually take action. They do it. They don't, I should say, because of the fear of the risk and the unwillingness, especially as you age and you have a family and you have responsibilities. It becomes very hard to take that gamble. And I started in payment processing, which allowed me to build enough revenue to start taking risks. And I bought a point of sale company based out of Oregon. And then I did an M&A with a payments company in Georgia. And then we acquired a company in Florida. So now today we have physical offices in Georgia, Florida, and Oregon. So that's pretty cool. And therefore, while our product would be considered a startup product, the business itself is not a startup. We're quite secured. And actually last year we did 6 billion in processing volume through all of our customers.
And I'm curious, again, being at the US Bank days, they have their own processing and that's a huge world. And again, 6 billion, that continues to grow. Is that similar to banking where you either absorb companies and do M&As or you get absorbed? Because that's how banking works. Curious if you set out to grow and absorb and that's just kind of part of the flow of traffic with that industry.
That's a killer question, Nick. That's a good question. I'm going to have a very unorthodox answer or uncommon answer. And the reality is I didn't set out to do any of this. I wanted to be a fireman in high school, like my dad was a fireman. And then we had a nursery and I wanted to, went to school for horticulture for a year. They canceled that program. Went to school for intro to entrepreneurship for a year. They canceled that program. When we're young, we don't know what we want. And there are a few of us that stumble into it. And I think that I am where I am because I have a drive. I'm creative. I don't accept no for an answer. And I am willing to do whatever it takes and put in many hours as I need, make as many sacrifices as I need to provide for my family and the ones I love. And ultimately, that just led towards where I am today. And I got in payment processing because a guy at the gym came up and said, "Hey, I want to show you a chest exercise if you're interested." I was 19 years old. And the guy was, he was definitely on roids and he was definitely he was a dick. He was a real dick. And I was with my best friend who's a big guy, like 250, 260. And he called my buddy fat, and it was just rude. But, the philosophy I took is I'll always look at every opportunity, and I went and approached him because that was his line. "Hey, I want to show you something. Come hit me up if you are interested." And it was a way to test who's willing to step outside the box. And then he was rude to my friend. So maybe it was another test to see if I would still engage. But I went up to him and said, "Yeah, show me." And to this day, I still use those cable flies. He taught me the cable flies. And I'd never done them at that point. You got the wide, right? And then you got the low, the lift, and there's a third one. And ultimately, I ended up going through an interview process and working for him for a few years as the remote employee in Oregon. And he was a very difficult man to work for. He didn't share a lot, but it led me on this path. And therefore, my answer to the question is, did you plan this? It's like, no. I just kept my eyes open for whatever opportunities showed up and used my discernment to follow the path that made the most sense. And even though this guy was a complete ass, like one of 2 people that I really don't enjoy conversing with and the way he treats people, but I'm always grateful for him for introducing me to this space. And he is a good person. It's just the way he communicates is, very rough. But ultimately, sometimes opportunities exist where you're not looking.
Yeah. Opportunity can be found in some of the strangest places. And that is amazing that you felt compelled to take the step forward and explore the opportunity. About what years was that? and I'm asking the question just to kind of put it in context of point of sale systems. I mean, things have come so far, right, in the last 20 years or so. So I'm curious, like, how early you got your start in this whole world of point of sale systems.
So I was 19 when I met him. I graduated in '04. So I must have met him in '05 or '06.
Okay.
Probably '06 when I actually started working in payments.
Yeah. What were the big systems or big players at that point?
Man, there was none. And all the POS was segregated. It was completely separate of payments at the time.
Okay.
And point of sale companies, they were there to provide service and a solution, and they didn't talk to credit card processors. That's why a company called Mercury just flourished. They were the first one who focused on partnering with point of sale companies. And Mercury Payments is now known, it's WorldPay today. There's been a lot of M&A since then, but they owned the market. And when I was out there, it was still slinging credit card terminals for savings. And it was very different in the world today. It has changed vastly. Payments and POS, they are sister and brother. They are together. They are under the same roof today.
So for the listener that, they're familiar with point of sale just in as much as they go to a coffee shop and tap their phone against the, nice iPad looking thing. For somebody that just has that kind of rudimentary understanding of what point of sale is, could you give kind of the quick and dirty history of what POS system is and what the business looks like and how it's evolved over the past 15, 20 years since you've been involved in it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's over RSPA, which is the retail solutions provider for association. And it is 75 years, celebrated 75 years this last year. And it was cash registers. They were the original cash registers, and it was all just about how you manage the sale and the transaction. And then it evolved into the technology, which allows you to today take orders at the table, do online ordering, print to the kitchen, labor management, staff management, the app for scheduling. POS today is all of the above. It's the operating system. It's the heartbeat of most businesses, even retail, restaurant, e-commerce. You ultimately rely on your point of sale. Our specialty at Tonic is for hospitality.
Got it. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I love how you frame that as the heartbeat of most organizations, because right, your income as a business has got to be kind of the lifeblood of how you're going to make ends meet, and so making that is as easy as possible. So, talk to me, kind of just you had your start with this this asshole from the gym that gave you your opportunity, but then you moved into starting your own thing. What did that journey look like?
I mean, another thing, you just got to give credit to people that come into your lives. I've always thought outside the box. I've been fired from the 2 jobs prior to that just because I wanted to improve things and didn't agree with the rules that were established because they didn't make sense. It could be more efficient. It could be more effective. We should expect more. These types of things that you often see in a spirited individual, which leads to entrepreneurship because they have those concepts and ideas. Therefore, the journey to work on my own was meeting the right person in the space that could teach me. The guy that recruited me into the space, he did not want to. He wanted to hold me down. He didn't teach me anything in the amount of time I was with him. Matter of fact, he lied to me. He taught me everything inaccurate. He sent me out into the field, said, go sell. And Nick, everyone lies in that merchant processing space. I didn't know I was lying. I was crushing 14, 15 deals a month on my own. And the more I learned, the harder it became to close. And I started to dip and I had to adjust because I realized that, 10 cents a transaction, not the listeners will understand, but 10 cents over interchange was not true 10 cents, against tiered pricing. And I had to learn that. And that didn't sit well for me. That really didn't sit on my heart well. I started to sell less. I questioned the industry. And then I met somebody who took the time to educate me. And it happened to be somebody else he hired. And his name was Stan. And then Stan and I decided to split off and do our own thing. And then Stan never paid me $1 and took a bunch of clients. And I also learned partnerships are a little tough.
Yeah.
Politely said.
Yeah, politely said. But they all get you where you need to be. Life will throw you difficult, challenging situations, and the more you lose, the more you have to share. And an hour, I cannot express everything of what I have learned in this 15-year journey to where I've gotten now. But I sure wish I could wind the clock back and have the knowledge I have now when I was that age. And that's what these podcasts are about, right? Hopefully the little nuggets that others that are just starting their journey, whether they're 50 years old or 16 years old, if they can actually listen to those that have done it and actually hear it, they can be wildly more successful than those that came before them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great word. And I'm curious on that. You said, we normally get to this part at the end of the show, but for you, what are some misconceptions of being an entrepreneur now that you've lived through it and you've grown the company, you've had to make hard decisions? What are some misconceptions you had early on that maybe you're saying, I wish I would have known then what I know now?
I'm going to cheat when I answer that because I just posted on Facebook, and I've been trying to post like once a week, fun reels and statements. And I was just overwhelmed with this particular thought, and the words, which I took about an hour to craft, my thoughts are going to just do it way more justice than if I just ramble it off for you guys, which we'll probably do anyways. But I want to read this post. The hook, you got to have the hook, right? So the hook is, I thought I would have more time. Right. And, it really doesn't show up well on the computer, on the captions. I'm learning social media. This is all for fun, guys. You guys do podcasts. You probably know more than I do on that front.
Maybe not.
Man. We chose podcasting because it's pretty easy. You set up a mic, plug it into the computer. The social media has got a whole different ball game.
Yeah, it's been challenging, but after this time, I've really chose I want to share more. Like no one even knew my name a year ago in July. I was nowhere on the internet, and even when I bought a Lincoln Navigator, and a friend put it on their account, I asked them to take it down. I was very just in my lane with my own people, and I've decided I want to inspire and motivate others. So here's what I wrote: I thought I'd have more time. As a young adult, I poured most of my effort into securing a future for myself and those I love, believing early sacrifices for financial independence would free up more time later on. Yet what I learned is financial success doesn't directly translate to more quality time with friends, hobbies, or most importantly, family. The truth, in the notorious B.I.G.'s words, which hopefully you guys know this song, "Mo money, mo problems," hit me over the years. More money often means more responsibilities. From my experience as an entrepreneur, despite adopting an elevate and delegate approach and having an exceptional team of over 100 people by my side, the work never ends. I'm convinced that even if I had twice as many hours in a year, the to-do list would still overflow. Looking back, I wouldn't change my past decisions. I'm thankful for every moment invested in the path it's led me on. However, I've come to realize the importance of striking a balance at any age. It's not just about pursuing dreams and financial security, but about carving out time for joy, wisdom, and making memories. Regardless of our age, choosing to live in the moment requires a deliberate effort. It's about valuing the present and understanding that success and time are limited resources. With each passing year, the hours remain the same, but our time to enjoy them dwindles.
That's beautiful, man. Seriously, I love that. I love that you put that together.
So let me explain how that.
Yeah, please expand. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Here's the connection of that. As an entrepreneur, we often get caught up with the dream, and we crave it. We crave it like an alcoholic probably craves alcohol. It can get unhealthy even, and then that's where when the failures lead to depression. Those who rebound from losing everything are very strong people. Because when you're all in and you lose it, it's a very dark place. And therefore, the myth that I think with entrepreneur is that a lot of people chase the financial side of it. They chase that freedom. I want that freedom to live. But even when you get there, most jobs, most companies, unless you're very intentional, they don't give you the freedom. They give you more responsibilities. I mean, look, I've had financial freedom since I was 26 years old. And today I have 70 unread Slacks, 2,000 unread emails, and I have to choose where I put my time. I mean, even voicemails and text messages, I have to choose where I put my time. And I'm on this podcast with you guys because for me, impacting others is equally as important as operating my business. But I have taken an approach of truly elevating and delegating. So all of my team knows if anything's urgent, they call me. It's about that call. You pick up the phone. And in a world where people don't like to pick up the phone, it's actually been something tough to teach everybody. Like, no, you need to call me if you need something that's urgent. So the myth is that with freedom, financial freedom, you have more time. And I think that's a myth. Now, you do have more flexibility with it, and you're not working that 40 hours, but no entrepreneur works 40 hours, So therefore, I think the ultimate myth is that financial freedom gives you more time. I just don't believe that's true until you learn that you have to be very intentional with it. And I didn't learn that until really the last 6 months.
That's a good, like a helpful corrective, because I do think that you're right. That most entrepreneurs, especially that are just getting started, they dream of having the kind of success that you've been able to achieve. And of course, I'd love to get into what that's looked like for you to get to that level and different moves and steps and things. But I think to state up front that it's just like, hey, even if somebody followed exactly in your footsteps and had all of the same exact wins, like the time piece is going to be a struggle. I'm curious with that revelation that you've come to, as you're evaluating your business, evaluating next steps for you, what kind of shifts is that leading you to make? To have, I mean, is more time freedom something that is a big priority to you? Or is it just kind of like, man, this is what it is. It's just a consequence of having a big successful business?
Great question. And I think I have an equally great answer to it. I love what I do. I love business. I love every hour I put in. I regret none of it. Absolutely not, because I enjoy it. I actually enjoy what I do. And when you're an entrepreneur, you generally do because you pursue something that you enjoy. Not everybody does. Some people are just brilliant engineers and they build things, and maybe they're not excited to build a particular toy, but they have the skill set to do it, right? So ultimately, it's about how present I am in each moment that I have. And I will put in 80 hours. I mean, just a year ago, I was on this kick. I was so happy about it. I got so into work, so addicted to the to-dos getting checked off that I literally worked a 4-week stretch with double shifts. I would wake up at 7. I would then take a nap at 4, sleep 2 hours, spend a couple hours with my kids, go back to work till 3, and then sleep till 7. And I did it for 4 weeks in a row. And I was telling everybody in the company, so there's facts. I was like, every day, what's your highlight? I'm still going. Like, this is working. Like, and everybody's getting emails and Slacks and all sorts of hours. And I just kept moving. I was down to like 8 emails, man. I got down to the bottom. I was just working through absolutely everything anybody needed from me. I got caught up. And then I flew to Atlanta for a trip, and it ruined it all because I got on a new time zone. I got out of the routine, and I haven't been able to get back to it. Nor do I really want to, because, it's not healthy for the body to be sleeping 3-4 hours at a time. But I hit a stroke, and that's what entrepreneurship is about. Like, there's a season of it where you have to put that type of effort and energy into it to get it off the ground. So even a new entrepreneur, they're not going to find the balance that I'm able to have with my time today. And if you are, then you will probably not make it. You will not achieve what you want. You may pay the bills. You may have a lifestyle business. But if you are trying to achieve financial freedom, that requires sacrifice, period. And I made that sacrifice. And I made it just a year ago on my own body. I still got with my kids every day, right? I still was able to eat and drink. and sleep, but I learned to just basically nap twice a day. And you cannot do that forever, but there are moments where you can. And when you get in those moments, you got to just dive in. You got to say, wife, kids, you make the time for them. But when your brain is working, this is what I tell everybody, because my company knows I've learned to basically Slack people like with the scheduler option, because they were getting notifications, especially the poor support team, which I think years went by before people told me, like, the on-call person is just like waking up every time you send them something because they have to wake up. And I mean, years went by before they told me. And I was like, guys, why didn't you tell me? Like, and so I learned to like schedule it for 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And, that's been very helpful for everybody else. And so basically I describe that I work when my brain is willing to. And there are times where I don't have the energy, and there are weeks where I don't have the same level of energy, and I accept that. And I definitely put in more than 40 hours because, you do, but there are weeks where I can do 80 to 100. And if my brain's willing to work, or laying at bed at 9 p.m. and your brain is running and you have the freedom in the morning, I'll just get up right then and there and go open my laptop and start working. And I have found for me that getting the thoughts out of my head, either writing them down or texting them to myself or just working, that I actually end up getting better sleep because it takes me so long to process those thoughts and fall asleep. Then if I just say, fine, I'm going to get up, I'm going to get it out of my mind, and then I can rest.
What I love where you're at with this, Tyler, because there's not a lot of people who talk about the cost of entrepreneurship. I think everybody knows entrepreneurs work really hard, but truly counting the cost and weighing that and the decision to either jump into this world or press forward into this world and give all that you can. But maybe flip it on the other side. Why is it worth it?
That's a great question. I don't know if I'd do it again.
That's an honest answer.
I mean, my mind went exactly where Nick's went of just, were there points in there as you're grinding where you kind of question, is this worth it? Like, you got the skill set, you could probably go get a nice, comfortable job, making a couple $100,000 a year, and have, all your needs met, but, a much more regular schedule. So yeah, kind of a similar boat of just to the aspiring entrepreneurs. What is kind of that driving why of why wouldn't you be content in the W-2 building somebody else's dream? Why you got to go out and build your own?
You got two answers for this. Number one, what's the end game for every person? Why are we here? What is your purpose as an individual? And we're wired to chase business, dreams, finances, caring. And that's just not where I'm at in life anymore. So I'm skewed on that answer because I remember being 20 and I would have not been able to hear what I'm about to say, which is the end game for each of us is different. And now that I have children and I have a wonderful family, I thoroughly enjoy being able to provide for them and, really being able to do, I'm not a big lifestyle person. So anything I want to do is within my means. My big house I bought one time, it was such a small percentage of my income. It was, very, very low, and it was still conservative. And that's just my style. And so I'm not driven by the money. Therefore, I'm driven by how I feel and how my heart is. And if, like my brother, this is a great example and very personal. He's got everything I wanted growing up. He's got a beautiful wife. He's got 3 kids, 3 boys. I was one of 3 boys. Beautiful wife, I might add. He's loved her since they were in sophomores. They were together. They broke up. They got back together when they were like 19, got married young. And, his wife is everything for him. He's charismatic. He's likable. He works hard. But when it came time to work nights or be with her, he chose her every time, unless absolute necessity. And they have a bond and a connection that, be honest, I rarely know people that love each other the way they do. But he doesn't have the same financial freedom. And what do you think he chases? Probably financial freedom. And what do you think I'd give up my financial freedom for is that connection that they have. So in the end, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you're not looking at what you have. You're married, you got kids, you want more, but be grateful for what you do have and find a balance. So is it worth it? I mean, hell yeah, it's worth it. Why? Because most entrepreneurs are unemployable. The way they think, the action, it's in their heart. They want to make a difference. They want to make an impact. So they're unemployable. I could not have done it any different than I did it, but I could have learned earlier that it was more important to hire others around me, make less profit on the year, build a team that affords me as the entrepreneur, the creator of the business, a life of balance.
That's a really solid response. Presented with a bunch of options, not surprised that when you're talking about building your business, that's just what's in your nature. You're designed to do it. That if you were to try and work for somebody else, I imagine you would just feel over time like you're not living up to your potential, not living up to what's inside of you to do. You mentioned something that's interesting, though, like entrepreneurs generally being unemployable. And going back a bit into your history, I'm curious where you first started to see the inklings of that. Like, how was school for you? How was education? Where did you start to get this feeling of like, I'm a little different than most of the people around me?
Definitely in school, for sure. I worked when I was young. I worked in the berry fields, picking blueberries, really got it down. I was making $12 an hour. You were paid by the pound. I was really good at it. And I didn't cheat like some of my friends. They would just run up and down the aisles and you just grab the cluster and you just kind of cup it. And you just, it looks bad if people are watching, but you do this and the berries just fall down and they fall in the bucket.
That was an amazing moment. I'm not cutting that one. That one's going on YouTube. That's going to be the social media clip right there.
All right. So it allowed me to collect a lot of berries and make $12 an hour. And I was 12, I think. And then the next year, I was the only gringo that went back. And I was there with my brother. I was there with friends. And I went back and they promoted me to work on the truck. And I got to just stack berries. It was blueberries. And so I just loaded the truck, worked with a Hispanic crew. No, only one gal spoke English. And the guy that I loaded with did not speak English. But we were friends. He took me to lunch. I rode in his car. And we were work buddies, but we could not speak to one another. And when my mom found out that I rode in his car, she was like, no, don't ever do that again. But, I felt safe as a 13-year-old at the time. And my friends would ride their bikes and visit me, and they were having fun, and I just worked. And so that was really the first sign that I had the desire to want to provide and, make money. And I saved all of it, and it just went from there. Ultimately, as the Key Club president in high school, I had a ice cream business raising money. So I sold ice cream all 3 lunches, which afforded me a lot of flexibility because I got to be at all 3 lunches, $1 a cone. And then I had to clean it afterwards. So everybody just wanted to be the friend I brought back there to clean it with me because you got to clean the machine and eat all the ice cream that was in it. Yeah.
Sounds like a great life.
It was, all the teachers would let me out. And, I always felt like I just had a good grasp on life when, teachers were just saying, oh, you don't even have to take the final. I'll just give you a B. And I was like, okay, cool.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's an amazing arrangement. Goodness gracious. I wish that I could go back and have worked something out like that. What do you think that was? Like that they just saw that you were built different? They saw that you had different inclinations, or you just had that charm?
I don't know. I'm trying to unpack that later in life because it's not like it served me. in my intelligence. Being socially capable and to communicate and to show competency doesn't improve your intelligence. And I could have learned more, quite frankly. I wish I had applied myself more, but it didn't interest me very much. And I would easily pick it up and get a C or a B. And I didn't pursue, grades in that way. I pursued people and connection. And I was, the king of the prom and all that stuff. And ironically, I didn't play sports, which is harder to do, after I didn't play sports after freshman year. And I worked, man. I just chose to work and just be nice to everybody. And maybe selling ice cream had something to do with that. Voting probably did. Now that
certainly didn't hurt. Certainly didn't hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly did not, now that I process that. So these are things that were young. And then the other thing that I'd love to share real quick is when I was a server, I had one night where I had a 19 top and 5 tops. And it's a fine dining restaurant, and the rules did not allow for this. But due to other employees not showing up, I was the only server on the 19 top, and they needed more help. So I took over and simultaneously ran 5 tops and a 19 top. At least that's how I remember it. Maybe the 5 tops were separate, but I believe they were all at the same time. But I had 2 bussers. They actually had 2 food runners at this. It was Riverside Yoshida's teriyaki sauce. If anybody eats it, it's his place.
Good stuff.
It's great stuff. It was good stuff. So it's his place out there in Troutdale, and I rocked it because I had people I could facilitate. I was able to tell this needs to happen, that needs to happen, and I was able to just coordinate the evening where I was able to touch all the tables at the time they needed to be touched and ensure that the food was delivered. And now I tip my food runners well because I made it a lot of money that night with that much going on. But here's what I tell anyone, a friend that can do that. They have the brain to be a leader. They have a brain to be able to facilitate many aspects. Like today, I'm technically head of product, head of development, our integrator, which is our COO, head of HR, and head of accounting. And we've got open seats to fill these leaders. And I have 27 and a half hours a week of fixed meetings. These are not problem solving. These are not structure. These are fixed. What's going on? What are we working on? Meetings. What is our progress? So I move everything, facilitate all of that. That is an amazing skill. It has been instrumental in my ability to get where I am. And if you have that skill, if you're listening and you're out there and you have that skill, that's unique. Not, look at how many restaurants are out there and they cap it at 3 or 4 tables for a reason. The vast majority of people cannot manage the chaos. But if you can do it with ease, that's a skill worth developing. And I developed that skill and only recently realized that was a skill I want to look for in people that I'm hiring and people that I want to cultivate as a leader so that they can stay calm in the storm and lead others, is the ability to intake a lot of information, manage it, put it in order, and then communicate it back to others.
I love that you went there. You basically just answered 2 questions that I had. One was, what is an underrated skill every entrepreneur needs? And I think it really rolls into the second question. And I want you to camp there for a minute. Going from buying the company and then growing it now to 100 employees, so many entrepreneurs say, I'm going to do it all myself. I'm the best one at doing it. Nobody can do it like me. But you've had to build systems and teams instead of going at it solo. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs stop because they don't delegate, they don't trust, and then they're not able to scale and they're slaves to a job. And I think we've hit a little bit on that here today. But what are just some lessons you've learned along the employee hiring, team building, building culture, building, and again, take this whatever way you want. But I just think that is a skill set that you have to learn as an entrepreneur. And you've not only had to learn it, but master it because of the pace that you've grown.
Great question. I definitely thought I did everything best. And I was the most capable, not the best, not the smartest, not the brightest, just the most capable of executing. And that's a skill in itself, is to actually get things across the finish line. And I touched on it earlier, but a lot of entrepreneurs are trying to grow their business. They have, they strangling it. It's everything theirs. And they do feel insecure, essentially, in a way that no one can do it better than me. And therefore, I can't give it to somebody else. And that has been learned. I've grown from 16 employees in May of 2022 to over 100 and probably more like 120 inside of the next 3 months. And this is March 8th. That 18-month journey, even though I've been doing this for 16 years, on my own, building it, it was a conscious decision to say, all right, I've been profitable. I have a great team. I don't work as hard as I used to. I want to do more. I want to go big. I want to help more people. I want to make a bigger impact. And it was conscious. That's why there's nothing online about me prior to July of 2023 when we launched Tonic. And, I think I did the one interview with Kathy Ireland when I bought VersiTech or VersiTouch at the time, where I rebranded as VersiTech. And so therefore, I think an entrepreneur really has to take away, if they're listening, that find what means you need to live with. Find what comfort you need in the bank as resources to feel safe. I think that's the key, feeling safe and secure. And be willing to share the rest, building an organization of individuals around you that gives you what's more important than money, which is time. Time for you to do things you don't even know you want to do. I keep getting told I'm a visionary because we run EOS. I need to do visionary things. And I'm like, yeah, but I love, I'm kind of unique. I love the vision, but I also see the operational steps to get there. And that's that skill from the restaurant example. If you have that skill, pursue operations. And if you have the other side of the skill of sales and charisma and all that, then pursue entrepreneurship. But I think in the end, the time is what matters. Therefore, invest in your people. Be willing to share, because I did everything. If I could save $10 by making a phone call, I did it. Right? Oh, I don't need to give this sale this warm, hot lead. Man, we're working a deal right now, a $300 million annual revenue merchant account right now. And it was referred to me by another leader in the industry who I've connected with. He said, Tyler, you're the company for this account. And, I got to pay a commission to somebody. And Dylan, the guy who introduced us, Nick, old me would have said, man, this is a major deal. I'm going to handle it from start to finish. I'm not going to trust it with anybody else, because 20-year-old version of Tyler would have done anything, quite frankly, to just walk into this size of business. And here I am getting walked into this business through a connection that I made, which is another point. Focus on networking, because it will lead you to things that you don't know. But ultimately, I trusted my team. I delegated it to Dylan, brought him in, so he met them with me, and it's been completely hands off from me since then. Old me would have never done that, because I would have looked at the money and said, no, I can net more. I can keep more. And that has been something I learned in the last 18 months. It's more important that I get the time to have with my family, my children, fitness, meditation, thought, because in those thoughts, I have a ton of ideas. What I learned when I started elevating those around me is that as a creative entrepreneur, I started thinking of things outside the box. Like, hey, I don't need free time. But then with free time came new ideas. I didn't see that coming. I really didn't think I had more ideas. I thought, we're on the path. We have a 1-year plan. We have a 3-year plan. I don't need any more than that. But with a little bit of free time came thought. And out of those thoughts, we've had some really great ideas and initiatives.
Well, and I love that too, because it's really speaking to that abundance versus scarcity mindset. The old 20-year-old Tyler, like you're saying, had a very scarce mindset of the walls are going to be up. I am the only one who I'm going to trust with this. But really, your company, you started this podcast by saying, I never knew this, I would be where I'm at, and I never knew this company would be as big as it is along this journey. And I really think that's attributed to along the journey, you've opened your mind to realizing that true abundance, realizing we're better together, letting go of those clutches and saying, hey, like other people can do this, and it helps everybody to flourish.
Well said, Nick. Absolutely well said.
Well, and so lastly here on my maybe question list, you early started with really kind of approaching this industry from being different. And we can talk shop a little bit being a banker of how many bad actors are in this space and how many people really take advantage of customers. I see it time and time again, obviously, as a banker. What's made you want to be different? And really, how does that factor into the success you feel like you've been able to have?
I mean, there's a pro and a con of being different, thinking outside the box. The con of it, if something doesn't make sense, if I cannot draw logic in an action or a rule, I struggle accepting it. And we have a lot of laws in this nation that just do not make sense. We have a lot of situations that you can find yourself in that you say, this doesn't make sense. And I want to push back on all of it. And it's not always a good idea to push back on all of it. And therefore, I just, what the thought just came to my head, and I normally don't jump around, but I got pulled over yesterday or 2 days ago, and a cop pulled me over. And this is kind of on point, but this is a good story. And I've been wanting to say this to somebody for a long time. So you can cut this up all you want, but listen, being different, but then seeing the opportunities where others don't. For example, when I was young, I had a vehicle with illegal tint in Oregon. And to get out of tickets for that, if I was pulled over, I had the brilliant idea that I would just put all my windows down so the officer could not see the tent. And I would just hope that he didn't pull me over specifically because my rear windows were tinted too dark. And I put them all down. And then I put them all down on days when it rained. And you know what I found? I never got a ticket. Never got a ticket. I mean, I'll admit, one time I even tried running from the cops. I was like, I think I can get away from this situation. And boom, I hit it, still did not get a ticket. I mean, that's a story on its own, what I told the cop in that situation. I mean, you got to know when you lost. So I could see he was going to get me. I just pulled right over. I was like, all right, I could play ignorant, if I stop now, if I stop right now. All right. But the lesson I learned out of that by thinking outside of the box, but then keeping your mind open and seeing what happens, is that by respecting a police officer's safety, they treated me differently. So the other night when I got pulled over and it's dark and it wasn't raining, I put all my windows down. And I'm in a big Lincoln Navigator, black Navigator, and he walks up, he pauses, and he looks through my entire vehicle from the rear window with his flashlight. Then says, sir, do you know why I pulled you over? And I was like, yeah, I was doing like 81 and a 70. And he's like, well, 84. I was like, yeah, okay, it's close enough, right? And this is Georgia, right? I thought they all speed out here. So I gave him my driver's license. He came back and he said, I'm going to let you go with a warning. And then I apologized to him because there was a load of semis and I couldn't get over for about half a mile. And I'll never pull over immediately. I will only pull over somewhere where the officer is safe. So, I put my blinker on. We drove for half a mile. I pulled over where there was not a guardrail and I was able to get off the road. So that's another step, put them in a safe spot. And then by putting the window down, they feel safe. It changes the whole situation. And I don't get a ticket because I respect their safety. And I learned that all because I was just trying to hide the fact that I had illegal tinted windows on my Mercedes when I was a teenager, or it was a Honda Civic, right? So when you look throughout life and you do things, that's the entrepreneurial brain where you're going to say, hey, that doesn't make sense. And therefore, I've been wanting to share this cop story. And I hope people out there, because I know this whole, fight the police thing, it was a big deal for a long time. And at the end of the day, they're just humans. They're humans that want to feel safe. treat them that way. And, I've been detained before, nothing serious or anything, but it was at a moment where I was not wanting to sit down, and I was being asked to sit down, and I got put down, right, and handcuffed. And that's a story for a different time, but it was nothing bad. So no one's going to find anything on it. It's actually a guy I went to high school with too. So I thought, I was like, bro, I can stand. It's like, no, I was young. I was 20 or something. And I learned then that it's all about their safety. It's their protocol. Hey, I need you to sit down so I can have time to react. And if you're not going to sit down, we'll put you down so I have time to react. And therefore, if you allow people to feel safe, they will treat you differently. And if you want to go it all the way into entrepreneurship, how I'd connect this to anything entrepreneurship is you build a place where people feel safe, employees, and you allow them to be themselves, their authentic selves. You embrace who they are, their skill sets, what they're good at, and you push them in those directions. And sometimes you push the ones out that aren't a good fit or have a skill set that has a greater calling, a greater purpose than what we do. And if you take that approach and you treat your team of people with that level of respect, you end up with a bunch of cheerleaders that want to execute your vision. And I say it to my team all the time. Like, I appreciate that they give me their time to achieve my vision, not their vision, mine. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs can lose sight of the sacrifices that the employees, the W-2 employees, are also making. And above all, the sacrifice of saying, I'm going to trust you to make decisions that leads this organization in a way that I can grow and build wealth for my family. And that's a scary thing to do. And quite frankly, corporate America can be very difficult, and it's cutthroat. And corporate America is all about, you have to deliver because it's about the bottom line. And I think entrepreneurs and small businesses get the freedom and flexibility to put people first.
Yeah, I love that. That's your mentality, your spirit of putting people first. I think it's amazing too, with the steps that, as your company as Tonic has grown so much, how you're being put in a position where you have to put people first. You have to give them more opportunities to grow and stretch their wings, because you're too big now to do it all. And kind of to that point, we didn't talk about Dylan nearly as much as I thought we might, but you did mention, even before we hit the record button, that we should talk with him about the onboarding process. And I'm just curious, as you think about, one, there's a degree to which you're needing to replicate yourself. You've obviously built a culture and a company that's been successful, that you're proud of, rightfully so. And so you want to get that into people, but I have a feeling that you take a bit of a different approach than, let's say, a U.S. bank or most corporations. So what does it look like for you to onboard, to train people? You've used the term a few times now of just elevating folks. What's that process like for you?
Mm-hmm. Ever evolving, because there's never just one answer. And we continue to try and do it better. And I wouldn't say we do it great. We start with ensuring that we share the vision, and we ensure that the person onboarding understands where we're trying to go and where we are today. And we get a commitment that they want to be a part of that journey. They want to ride that wave. And I think when you do that right out of the gate and you're transparent as a business, that people are more accepting of the challenges that we're facing, where we need help, their desire to want to help. So onboarding really starts with transparency and communication of the vision and communication of the responsibilities and expectations of the individual starting, so that they can own it, that they can walk in and say, I own it. And as you can imagine, we added 47 bodies last year. And I'll admit, that's a goal we're still chasing. That is a goal that we are still chasing. We're doing better. But if it all starts with someone who wants to be there, they show us grace as a company. They show patience. They communicate because we ask them to. We are open, honest, transparent. And therefore, I think the key that we do different is we give grace and we ask for grace. from our team. And then from there, culture establishing, I got all sorts of little nuggets. You guys probably want to ask questions, but I keep just answering probably the question.
This is gold, man. This is fantastic.
Every relation, just stuff I told Dylan for years now and other people. Every relationship is like a bank account, and you are taking a withdrawal every single day just to maintain and keep that bank account open. And you have to make deposits into it. And you're bankers, so it's a perfect analogy here. And there are some days where you can just wave hi to somebody and you get a small deposit, a little interaction. And there are some days where you can make large deposits. The key is, just like seeing all the opportunities that I saw in the window example about the policeman, started to see that. It's also about seeing when you can make the biggest impact and when you should be there. Therefore, when someone has something to celebrate, when they're sad about something, when they're just in the motions and you could see that they're just not connected with everyone or life, perhaps, show up for the employees when you see these things. Don't think, why isn't he performing as well? Check yourself at the door. You have a job to do. If you think, how can I make a deposit in the bank account? And that's not exactly how I think. I just think, hey, something's going on. Let's address it. And when you do that, when you show up for someone who had a baby and you build a custom care package, big old thing. We do this, right? Adrienne on our team, she does it. She's amazing. We got partners that have babies. We have customers that have had babies. We send them this thing and we go pick everything out. It's not, just out of the box. It's with care. That is a 10x deposit on the relationship. 10x. And the customer I'm thinking right now, where this kind of started, she just considered switching to Toast. Her sister wants to go to Toast and ready to go. She texted me 3 days ago, said, hey, it was my idea. I said, we need to call Tyler first. We need to talk to him. It's not because we sent her a care package when she had her baby. It was the relationship, his so many deposits that she didn't want to just cut it off. And I think that entrepreneurs, business owners, people in general, friendships, they just need to realize that your friendship with everyone in your life, including your children, your wife, your parents, is a bank account, and you take a withdrawal every day, especially when you don't call them, you don't show up, or you let a friend down, you make a big withdrawal. And someday, eventually, when it pulls everything, that's the end of the relationship. And it's hard, really hard to start it again. So make deposits in your employees' lives. So therefore, when we have someone on board, I make a very intentional effort to greet them in person. When I'm in the office, it's by name, in person, shake their hand, chat for a second. I also try and interview every single person we hire at the manager level up. And it's not an interview. It's this, it's, hey, let's meet each other so that when we see each other at work, it's not like, oh, that's Tyler and I never talked to him. It's like, no, let's connect for a minute before you start. Because an interview is a different time. When you work for somebody, the dynamic of the relationship changes. But when you're still interviewing for the job and you don't work for them, you're still sharing who you are. I can ask questions and get to know somebody at a different level in an interview than if they saw me as their employer CEO. Mm-hmm. So therefore, I think the key to success in business, once you have enough revenue, because you got to be able to grind yourself, you got to grind. And then when you have enough money to provide for yourself or enough to take the risk that you don't need it, then you start hiring people. And you will go through hundreds of them before you find the ones that you need.
I just love the consistency in saying people are the priority, but you're demonstrating that in your empathy toward them, celebrating their wins, entering into the messy emotions that so often, try to get pushed to the side as soon as you enter through the company doors. And I imagine that on the long haul, you've got far better relationships within the company. Your business is a much happier place to be, and ultimately, you probably get much better performance out of your people because they're bought in and they care.
100,000% difference. I mean, think about it as you as a person. When you care about something, what effort do you put towards it versus when you don't? It's just, it's how we're built.
Yep.
Night and day. It's just how we're built. And if people care about who they work for and what they're working towards and who they work with, they put a different level of effort in, and you don't have to ask for it. It becomes a behavior that is simply shown, and it becomes the expectation, because as someone new comes into the culture, that's the culture they see around them. And, we've grown a lot, 16 to where we are. I would say that it's embodied at every level of my organization today, 3 states, offshores. There's a lot that is still learning, our ways. But it starts with having one leader to the next leader to the next leader, and it trickles down. And it's the behavior of everybody that eventually the culture of which the leader wants is the culture that it ends up becoming. That's just the way it is. And we've had a lot of bodies. I don't know everybody, and it's really weird. So even when we have like company-wide calls, I call out every new face I see, like, hey, can you tell us all about you? And it was really hard for a lot of people. I didn't expect this. There were some people crying. They're like, what are you doing?
Put on the spot, called out. Nah,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Exactly. Man. But before we wrap up, I would challenge y'all to get Dylan to give you an hour. Let him talk about culture, sales, learning, because I don't want to spoil it here. But when you hear his story of what happened, even I feel a little bad. Like, in hindsight, even I feel a little bit bad. But out of the fire came a guy that is incredibly brilliant, talented. And when he came on board, I was like, okay, learn everything I have learned and do it in 30 days.
No, we'll definitely take you up on that. We'll reach out to him and get him on here. And I mean, it's exciting to think you've grown a ton as it is over the past 18 months, and it sounds like that's only going to continue with another acquisition closing up in just over a month's time. So very, very exciting, the spot that you're in. I know that we're short on time. There's one Easter egg. Can you just speak to that movie that you're part of?
Oh, dude, there's a lot of things I'd love to speak about. We're going to run out of time.
That's fine. I was just, if you got like the minute, 30-second teaser.
Yeah. I got 5 minutes. So you close out whenever you want to close out. But so 2 years, in 2020, I made the decision that this was the year I was going to go at my problems. And me and my right-hand guy, Jesse, said, this is the year we go directly face on with all of our problems. Then COVID hit, and now we say, don't say that. We don't go at our problems.
And the whole world thanks you.
Yes. Yes. But in our little world, it's like, let's get problems and solve them. And we just got problem after problem. We're like, man, this is a lot of problems. We didn't,
Right.
We didn't want all this. And so ultimately, 2021, 2022, maybe 2022, 2023, 2024 now is get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Embrace discomfort. Feel the fear. Do it anyways. I mean, these are things that I've been saying for a couple of years. And as a leader, I figured I needed to start with myself, because there is an immense level of peace that you find when you live without fear. Now, granted, I feel it. I get nervous. I get scared. I don't want to do something. But when I know that I have the choice and I am capable, and therefore we all know what fear feels like. Nick, do you want to take your shirt off and go run at the next SEC game on the ground? Like, I dare you right now, go do it. Right. Like, maybe you guys would, maybe you're the kind of guys that bring that on. Some people would be like instantly their bodies like, absolutely not. Like, hey, Nick, let's go skydiving, 10,000 feet. You want to jump? Like, maybe you will. But now you're shaking your head. No, that feeling, right? We all feel it. And I always felt it even, I'm a good talker, but it's always been uncomfortable for me. And so when they say like, hey, I need a volunteer, like my head's down. I'm like, don't pick me, don't pick me, don't pick me, don't pick me. And I don't want to go up, even though when I would go up there, I would be charismatic and energetic, but inside I was incredibly uncomfortable and it was challenging for me. And therefore, I didn't do a lot of things. Like I told you, I didn't work in high school. I mean, I worked in high school. I didn't play sports. And I've been saying that for years. And as I've gotten older, I've accepted the truth. I was afraid to play sports and not be the best. And I was a good athlete. I was not the best. And therefore, I stopped. And I went to work, which I was also really good at doing. And so I let fear of failure in front of others prevent me from playing high school sports. Even though when I got in trouble one time for high school pranks, and they sent me down to work out with the track team as my punishment. And we had a guy who was like the state champ or something, around a 40-second 400, 46-second 400. I went down there and ran right on his tail the whole time. I'll never forget it because he goes, man, I feel like you could have passed me. I was like, I could have passed you. He's like, you need to run track. But never did. Never did. And I needed a mentor to say, hey, really come do this. I need to get challenged. But, basketball was my passion. So I said, nah, I'm not going to play next year. I was on JV2 the first year. And the coach said, hey, you'll play next year, try out. But I was afraid. So now I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to do anything. I have no fear. And I've learned that. And I applied to be on a Viking movie with my hair. And I was nervous to apply. It took me 6 months. Okay, 6 months to apply. The ad kept showing up, and I finally did. And I ended up getting the ad. I got the casted. And they said, have you ever acted before? And this is all through like direct messages, right? And I said, yeah, I have more experience than someone who has none. And they thought it was funny. So they're like, all right, we'll let you try. And they said, well, what experience do you have? And I was like, well, I was in a play in 8th grade, right? And I was in the whole play, start to finish. And that's it. But the idea made me hella nervous to even apply. And then when she posted on Facebook that I got casted, I didn't look at my phone for an hour. I laid in bed. I threw it to the side. I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't have told anybody at that time. Like just applying, I was progressing in my fight of the fear. And then she posted and told the world. And I was just like, I can't even look. It was like 8 a.m. I remember exactly where I was. And then the movie never happened. And recently, I was DMing with them and she's like, they got this role. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's crazy. I just wanted to throw axes, shoot bows, and that came natural. This role that I just got casted for, and I did a real audition this time. Because the other time I just did my hair and like Viking and dressed up as Halloween, was like, I'm perfect for this. Pick me, and they did pick me.
And it worked, yeah.
It worked. So I also then sent it to the Trailblazers, same photos, because the Trailblazers didn't have any good gear online. I sent some really sarcastic, like, man, I just got this gift card. I don't have time. There's literally nothing to buy on your website. And they were like, oh, we have more stuff. And they were really sarcastic. So I sent them the same Viking photos, me and the kids, and said, hey, do you need a model then? I'll come down and model. So I went and got the model for the Trailblazers guys.
They took you up on it. Yeah. Oh, dude, that's incredible.
They were like, come on down. So I went down twice, and it was last season or 2 seasons ago. So I'm probably off the website now, but I got to be on the website off the same photos. So I'm just like throwing myself out there, whatever makes me uncomfortable. So now this role, Miami drug lord, murderer, that also has an implied sex scene. And I'm like, listen, that's not me. That's not me at all. I'm a nice guy. I care about people. And she goes, I'll never forget. She goes, yeah, Tyler, that's why they call it acting.
Gotcha.
And I was like, well, the other one, I grew up hunting. Like I shoot bows and throw axes all day long. So now I'm in a movie. It's a featured film. It's 2 hours. I've never acted before. This group is really trusting me. I did do auditions. That was really weird, and all by myself, recording and reading scripts. And I'm going to be all in on it. I get to be mean. And so it's going to be really a different side of me that people get to see. And, they see the smiles. It's constant, so I'm going to have to like not be smiling, the point is embrace discomfort, go do it. And I'm not trying to be a model or an actor. It's like, these are things that scare me. And if they scare me, I have to do it.
You're living your principles, and that's an amazing thing. And it's opening up more opportunities than what you could have ever imagined. And so, man, I so appreciate you pulling back the curtain on that. I know that you got to run. amazing time connecting with you here. I will include links to Tonic in the show notes. Where's the best place for people to connect with you on social media or just to follow along with your journey?
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to, go to our websites, Tonic Point of Sale, boldpay.io. We'd love to work with businesses, hospitality businesses. We'd love to provide credit card processing for anyone. If you guys reach out to us, you're going to get, white glove service. We have a great organization, over 10,000 customers now. Yeah. But ultimately, if they like some of the stories, I've taken an initiative to share more. So, Tyler Young on Facebook, or I think it's Tyler Yo, what is my Instagram? Tyler Yo 415 for my birthday. And I'd ask people to come follow along and find me on LinkedIn, because I'm posting once a week with just life reels and what I wrote earlier. And I wrote that the same day in like 40 minutes right before the post. I had a video. I was like, what am I feeling right now? Mm-hmm. And therefore, I would love people to follow along. I just want to inspire people to be the best version of themselves and find what I've found, which is honestly, even through the storm, no matter what happens, when a lot of bad things happen every day, a lot of challenges that I have to get through. And here, man, I feel at peace, which I did not up until it's been a 4-year journey of me pursuing this feeling. And it's amazing.
Dude, well, I can't wait to see what comes of it. Listeners, I do encourage you to click on all of those links below. Look into Tonic for your businesses, as well as give Tyler a follow. And man, thank you again so much for your time here. It's been so good to connect with you, and look forward to seeing that movie. And we'll stay in touch in the meantime, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.